The old cobblestone road to Cardham's Pass wound like a grey ribbon between cedar-clad hills. Dawn had not yet fully bloomed, but filaments of rose fickered in the eastern sky. Era Blackharp, travel-worn and saddle-sore, followed the road alone, her hand ever close to the hilt of her rapier. She felt no chill despite the mountain air, because a crimson cloak clasped at her throat cupped the heat of her own breath and gave it back to her skin. The cloak was thin, its fabric lighter than linen, yet lamb-warm. More wondrous still, it glimmered faintly, like the inside of a seashell catching first light. With every step Era took, the shimmer brightened, until it was difficult to believe the dawn above was not simply seeping out of her shoulders. Travellers who camped near her sometimes whispered that she carried a little piece of mourning behind her, like a comet's tail. She had received the cloak 3 months earlier in the river port of Revel, and although the seasons themselves seemed stitched into its folds, she knew almost nothing about the artisan who had made it. The merchant who sold it had only said, breathless with awe, "Scarlet Tailor fashioned this. They say he stitches dawn itself." Era's first reaction had been to scoff, until she fastened the clasp shaped like a rising sun and felt warmth coil around her spine. Now, as she ascended toward Cardham's Pass, the cloak meant more to her than the weighty purse at her hip, or even the precious letter bound for the northern king. At the pass, she found the stone arch, half collapsed and veined with ice. She dismounted, whispering comfort to her mare, and ran a gloved hand over the cold carvings. Legend said the arch marked not only a border between provinces, but a seam between days. You could, if you came at the right moment, step through the crumbling gateway and find yourself inside tomorrow. Era pushed the thought away. Superstition could wait. Passage to the north could not. A shape moved among the cedars, an older woman in threadbare wool, face obscured by a hood. The stranger watched Era from the tree line, then approached with the tentative step of someone who feared startling a wild animal. "Good morning," Era began. "It will be," the woman replied, voice rough as pumice. "If you let it." Era lifted an eyebrow. "Let what?" "The dawn you carry." The woman gestured at the crimson cloak. The gesture was neither pleading nor covetous, but reverent, as though she recognized clergy robes. "I have come to return something of yours, and beg something in turn." Era took a cautious step back. "I don't understand." The woman unfastened the satchel slung across her body. Inside lay a bolt of red cloth, deeper than wine and yet luminous. She held it out. "Scarlet Tailor bids you bring this to him before the new moon sets. In exchange, he asks you to bear a request to the king beyond the pass. The cloak on your shoulders is his messenger. Without you, it cannot speak." "Scarlet Tailor?" Era echoed. "Does he dwell near here?" The woman shook her head. "He dwells nowhere precisely, yet every sunrise makes a workshop of the horizon. If you would find him, you must start at twilight and follow the colour that spills upward." Era studied her carefully. The woman's hands, though cracked with cold, were dotted with pinpricks, tiny red scars consistent with a lifetime of needle pricks. She might be a seamstress, maybe an apprentice gone astray. "What is he to you?" Era asked. The answer came soft and immediate. "My brother." Something inside Era shifted. Though suspicion remained, curiosity began to flare. She accepted the bolt of cloth, marvelling at its weightlessness. It possessed the same uncanny warmth as her cloak, though it had never touched a fire. The woman continued, "The king of the north plans a war of expansion. Scarlet Tailor cannot halt armies, but he can bend light enough to temper steel hearts. Carry his cloth to King Idrun. Cast it at the king's feet at dawn. Let it unfurl in the throne room. Only then will the king hear the song hidden in it. Only then might war relent." Era bristled. "You know my errand? I know you carry a letter pledging mercenary service," said the woman. "You go as a champion. But every champion must decide whether to stitch new wounds or suture old ones. Wind combed the cedars, and Era shuddered, though her cloak remained warm. She thought of the battles behind her, of blood-spattered banners and songs sung at burial mounds. She had not sought this mission to sell her sword, only her counsel, but now she wondered if counsel might prove as deadly as a blade. "What proof have I that this legend of a tailor is not trickery?" she demanded. The woman pointed to the sky. The weak blush of sunrise flickered like candlelight on water, dimming, brightening, dimming again. Yet around Era's shoulders the cloak shone steadily, as though tethered to its own private dawn. "He stitches with light no matter what the heavens intend," said the woman. "He weaves hope even when clouds conspire." She smiled for the first time. "Bring the cloth. You may keep the cloak. Wherever you travel, it will re-travel in the first breath of daylight. But if you let war choke daylight, it will fade, and you with it." Before Era could reply, the woman bowed, turned, and slipped among the cedars, leaving footprints that already filled with drifting mist. Alone again, Era stroked the bolt of cloth. Its color deepened where her fingers touched, like coals fanned by breath. 3 days later, she descended into the valley kingdom of Idren. Winter had drawn grey curtains across the land. The rivers wore plates of ice, and the fields lay fallow except for rows of briar. Soldiers in dented helms clustered at every crossroad. These men were not drunk with triumph, but bone-tired, staring at the horizon as if they expected it to fall on them. At dusk she reached the capital, Velberg, encased in walls of black granite. She announced herself at the gate. "Era Blackharp, envoy of Cardam's League. I carry a cloak of treaty and a letter for the king." The guard eyed her crimson garment with poorly concealed yearning. Envoys sleep in the bronze wing. Era was escorted through armories fragrant with oil and sweat, past barracks where soldiers whisper-quarreled in their sleep. She sensed fear fermenting in the corridors. Perhaps the king's ambitions outweighed his coffers. Inside the bronze wing, her chamber was bare but for a cot and a frost-fogged window. She unfurled Scarlet Tailor's cloth. Moonlight poured through the glass, struck the fabric and rebounded in delicate ribbons along the stone floor. The effect lured her near as surely as music. When she brushed the smooth surface, a hum bloomed in her chest, low as temple bells. Words welled into her mind, quick flashes too swift to grasp. She slept little. At dawn, a page summoned her. She draped her own cloak across her shoulders, rolled the bolt of cloth beneath one arm, and followed him. King Idren's throne room resembled a cavern carved in iron, all angles and cold light. He sat on a seat of welded spears. His hair, once copper bright, or so songs claimed, had bleached to twilight ash. Beside him stood 4 generals, 3 ministers, and an emaciated courtmaid. Era bowed. With practiced ceremony, she produced the League's letter. While Idren broke its seal, she examined the faces around her. Exhaustion everywhere. Fear in the minister's tight lips. Resentment in the general's flared nostrils. Only the mage looked curious, eyes fixed on the scarlet cloth tucked under Era's arm. The king read swiftly, then addressed the hall. "Cardam's League offers counsel and coin in exchange for grain exports once Varos is subdued." His tone made it plain he found the offer predictable, perhaps insulting. "Why should I trade my future spoils when I can seize Varos unaided?" Era opened her mouth, but silence beat her, heavy as a hammer. The cloak tightened about her shoulders. Its woven dawn glowed with urgency, as if nudging her toward action. She inhaled. "Your Majesty, I bring more than a letter." The generals shifted, annoyed that a dusty traveler dared speak before they had. Idren raised an eyebrow. Era stepped forward. "I carry a gift from Scarlet Tailor, the tailor of the horizon." She lifted the cloth with both hands. Recalling the sister's instructions, she flicked her wrist so the bolt unrolled. It soared like a crimson banner, then cascaded across the flagstones with barely a whisper. The fabric kept unfurling. past what the bolt could possibly contain, painting the cold floor in spreading light. Golden threads appeared amid the red, each thread a sunrise pinned to memory. Saffron over calm seas, peach above wheat fields, vermilion on canyon walls. The air smelled suddenly of dew and citrus and wood smoke. Court officials gasped. King Idren leaned forward, one gauntleted hand hovering as though he touched the vision from afar. Ripples moved through the fabric, coalescing into images. Farmers ploughing a thawed field, children chasing a hoop along a restored city wall, soldiers stacking shields in an armory, then stepping into morning light, laying down spears. Words followed, as quiet as breeze through curtains. There is power in preservation greater than the harvests of conquest. Light cannot be hoarded. It must be shared, or it dies. Era was not sure whether the words came from the cloth or bloomed inside her. She saw by the king's widening eyes that he too heard them. The scarlet cloth grew still, the images faded, leaving only radiant color on the ground. But the scent of dew remained, and something looser in the room's stiff air, like a knot untying. King Idren's voice broke the hush. "Take it away." Alarm jolted Era. "Your Majesty, do you not—" "Not from my sight," he clarified hoarsely. "From the stone? It belongs on shoulders, not as a rug." Servants rushed forward. When they lifted the enormous sheet, it shrank miraculously back to the size of a mortal garment, a mantle sized for one great back, deep red streaked with gold. The king rose. "Scarlet Yoren sends a powerful argument." One general, thick-necked and scarred, sputtered, "A trick of dyes, sire. We cannot let sorcery guide policy." "Trick or miracle," the king interrupted. "It moved me more than 3 seasons of battle reports." He paced. "Cardam's League offers counsel and coin. I propose a different covenant." He faced Era. "Tell the League I will halt the march on Varos for 1 year. In return, I want a cadre of these scarlet cloaks for my traveling soldiers. Symbols of new purpose. Can your tailor oblige?" Era swallowed. "I cannot promise for him. He appears only with dawn." Idren smiled wearily. "Then I shall rise earlier." As Era bowed, she felt the dawn cloak on her own shoulders glow, bright as noon. Outside the throne room, the court mage tugged Era aside. His voice scratched like parchment. "That cloth sings in a tongue older than fire. If you find its maker, give him this." He pressed a silver thimble into her palm, engraved with constellations. "Tell him there are holes in the night sky. Tell him I would help mend them." Era departed Velburg the same day, bearing the king's message and the mage's gift. On the road south, rumors sprinted ahead of her. The war postponed, a mantle of sunrise laid at the monarch's feet. Soldiers wondering whether dawn could be rations wrapped in silk. Yet dusk found Era anxious. She had promised to return the tailor's cloth before the new moon set, and 2 nights already bled from the calendar. She spurred her mare until hoarfrost stung her cheeks. On the 3rd twilight, she crested a ridge overlooking Lake Kyle. The sky blazed carmine, the color so thick she fancied she could gather it in handfuls. She dismounted, heart thunderous, and waited. At first, she saw only mirrored redness on the lake. Then ripples grew, though no wind stirred. From the center of the water rose a small boat of polished cedar. Oars, unmanned yet churning. At the prow stood a figure in garments the color of candle soot, a startling contrast to the riot of red. The boat slid onto a pebbled shore, and the figure stepped out. He was neither young nor old, his face marked by fine creases as if folded many times by laughter and frowns alike. His hair, a chaotic flame color, framed dark eyes that reflected the sky's fire. "Scarlet Ioran," Era ventured. He nodded. "You carry my sunrise safely, I see." Era removed the wrapped mantle from her pack and presented it. "Your sister bid me return it in time. I have done so, and I come with news. Your cloth swayed a king." She relayed Idren's truce, the request for more cloaks, and the mage's thimble. Scarlet Tailor listened in stillness. When she finished, he smiled, something aching in it. Every dawn I stitch is a seed. Where it lands I cannot always know, but I hope it flowers. He examined the mantle, fingertips skimming the gold threads. You let it breathe. It has tasted throne room iron. Good. It needed to know walls before it returns to skies. He handed the cloth to the lake. Instead of sinking, it spread across the water like spilled paint, dissolving until the lake itself gleamed crimson. Your king desires more, he mused. Desire is a needle. If wielded poorly, it pricks blood. If guided well, it sows nations. He lifted his gaze to Era's cloak. Yours remains bright. That tells me you chose hope when war beckoned. I thank you. Era flushed. I only followed your sister's plea, but choice never lacks alternatives. He gestured, and ripples of light gathered at his feet, coalescing into 3 new bolts of cloth, each unborn cloak shimmering with sunrise yet to come. He set them in Era's arms. Give these to the king's most wearied generals. They will dream lighter. He placed the star-engraved thimble in his pocket with a nod. The mage speaks true. There are holes in night. Together we will patch them. Era felt questions piling inside her. How he learned to sew light, whether he tired of chasing every horizon. But the lake glimmered, and the sky's crimson began to pale. Dawn approached. He must leave soon. Where will you go? She asked. Wherever darkness grows ragged. His smile turned teasing. If too few believe in dawn, there's more stitching to do. Behind him, the boat melted back into the lake until water and cloth and sky blended into one seamless canvas. He began to walk across the shimmering surface as though it were firm earth. Each step spilled sparks of color, which rose, drifted, and wrote fresh streaks into the paling sky. Era watched, chills racing her spine despite the cloak's warmth. When he reached the horizon's edge, the sky yawned open, swallowing his outline into brightness. A new sun wavered, then steadied atop the waters. Scarlet Tailor was gone, but his handiwork spread across heaven, inaugurating morning. Era mounted her mare. The 3 dawn cloaks glowed against her saddlebag, eager for shoulders that needed them. She turned toward the roads where soldiers waited, where decisions hung like uncut cloth. As she rode, sunrise pooled behind every distant roof and treetop, tinting the world with possibility. The legend of the Scarlet Tailor, she realized, was not simply a tale of magic stitches. It was a reminder that every traveler carried a thread of tomorrow, waiting to be woven into deeds. She pulled her own cloak tighter, its warmth lending courage. Ahead lay borders, treaties, perhaps still wars. But also mornings infinite as the tailor's bolts, and as long as dawn could be sewn into cloth, it could be sewn into hearts. The road unfurled, grey, but gilded now at the edges. Era spurred her mare lightly, and together they wove their small line of light into the vast tapestry of day.